Hello and welcome to BYJU'S Exam Prep IAS. A very warm good morning to everyone. I hope all of you are doing good. It's 10 a.m. means it's time once again to analyze the day's Hindu newspaper. I welcome you all back to today's session and I'm very glad to see all of you joining in right here on time. As you know, this year we have decided that the Hindu Newspaper Analysis would go live, where we, the faculties, would be in front of you taking your questions as well. And I'm glad to see that all of you have made it a habit to join in here right on time. I also hope that you are taking advantage of all the other initiatives that are running on our YouTube channel. I hope you have been attending all the target prelims classes as well. Today's session at 7:30 p.m. will be the third session of International Relations. Don't forget to join us for that as well. This is the schedule and I hope by now all of you have made a note of it. This is where we are. There are a few more classes to go, very important classes, couple of classes for government schemes, then places in news for art and culture, and then reports and indices and places in the news. There is one other important announcement for all of you. We have an upcoming All India Prelims 2023 open mock test for all of you. This Sunday, 14th of May, 9:30 a.m. This test will be open to everyone. This is your chance to see how prepared are you for the prelims examination and see your score against others as well. The easiest way to register is by clicking on the link given in the description of the video, so don't forget to join in there as well. Now let's come back. These are the topics that we have taken up from today's Hindu newspaper. From the mains examination point of view, there are 4 topics that we'll be discussing. Number 1, the idea and reality of what is happening in Manipur. I know all of you would have seen and read in a lot of detail about what is happening in Manipur. We have discussed this topic also in our CNAs in the previous few classes. We will be discussing if there is anything new in the idea of Manipur, why is it that the protests are taking place, and what is it that the government could have done to prevent it. Then the right to health and the role of Taiwan. The reason why this article is written is that the World Health Assembly will be meeting very soon. World Health Assembly is the meeting of the members of the WHO. In this meeting, Taiwan has once again not been invited. So there is this article written from a cabinet minister of Taiwan where he is saying that Taiwan should have been invited. The third topic we'll be taking up is green crosshair. This is about the EU's new law to put extra taxes on products coming in from those countries that are not doing enough for climate change. We'll be discussing what that is, how it impacts India, and in the end, the migrant vote. Today, as you know, we have the state assembly elections in Karnataka. The entire state of Karnataka is voting today. So again, this topic is in the news. Why is it that the migrant domestic laborers don't have the right to vote living where they are? And then from prelims point of view, an interesting news coming in between India and Israel. Israel's minister is in India, where the topic of Indian goods to Israel was discussed. As per this, Israel's foreign minister says that Arab train of Arab countries will be used to carry Indian products to Israel. And in the end, we'll be discussing how CPEC, that is China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, will now be extended to Afghanistan, the implications for India. So these are the things that we have for you today. Without waiting any further, let's begin to see. The first one that we have is the idea of Manipur. Now, I'm very sure all of you by now would have done all your research about Manipur. The problem that is going on in Manipur, why is it that the two communities, mainly the communities living in the hilly areas, the tribals, why exactly are they protesting against those who are living in the plains? The simple recap, if you don't know the idea, the simple recap is the communities living in the hilly areas, mainly the Kukis and the other tribes, they have always been a part of scheduled tribes. On the other hand, the Metis who live in the plains, they are not a part of scheduled tribes. However, they have been demanding for a long time that they also want to be a part of the scheduled tribes. Now what happened? After a petition was filed by the Metis community in the state high court, the high court had instructed the state government to take up this case and ask the center government to give them reservation. This is the background idea. I hope all of you know this by now. So the central idea about why is it that the clashes are happening is about reservation. There is a specific tribal population of Manipur who have been given reservation under scheduled tribes. They don't want the reservation benefits to be shared with the other community living in the plains, that is a Metis community. However, there is one other part of the story here. As per many people, this entire agitation or riots, what you call them, are not just about the reservation story. There is one more story related to it which is not being reported very heavily. That is about fight against drugs. This is the fight against drugs. Now, what is this issue all about? So what is happening is, in the past few months, the government of Manipur has been going on against the drug lords and drug mafias in Manipur. The government of Manipur has been taking a lot of steps to destroy all the drug cultivation. They are saying that illegal opium cannot be grown in our state. As a result of this, some people in the hilly areas who used to be in this business, and also some illegal immigrants in Manipur who have come in from Myanmar, they were actually a part of this business. Now, these people who have actually come in from Myanmar to come in into Manipur, and they're indulging in this drug business, these Myanmar illegal immigrants, many of them are related to the hill tribes. So a part of the story is that this agitation is not just about reservation, it's also against the state government's effort to control drug cultivation. However, having said that, whatever be the reason, as you all know, this is not justified. There is one more interesting thing I'll tell you. Remember this, whenever there are riots anywhere, one very interesting thing happens. Whoever is the rioter, they usually attack the government buildings as well. Now, the question is, why would they attack the government buildings? The reason why the rioters attack the government buildings is they want to destroy all the land ownership records. For example, if you own a certain piece of land in a state, or if you have certain land in your city, you will have the agreement or you will have the papers. Government also has a copy of the land records. So in the government record also, it should be written that you have or you are the owner of this land, so that you can cross-check this. When you have to sell it to someone, government will cross-check their records. What the writers do is, and what they are doing in Manipur as well, many of them are attacking the government offices where these property records are being kept, so that the property records are being destroyed, the land records are being destroyed, after which they can actually illegally, forcefully acquire land of the people. This is where the problem starts. So the problem is not just about reservation. It might seem to be on paper about reservation. There are other aspects attached to it as well. The drug related issue, as I discussed, and then there's this issue of how exactly is it that the records are being compromised and how the government records are being destroyed. The author here belongs to Manipur, however, is a professor in the University of Hyderabad. This author here says that we should learn from the examples of how Eastern European countries in 1990s, when there was disintegration of USSR, when the Eastern European countries also had a similar kind of issue. Even today, if you compare Eastern Europe with Western Europe is much more advanced, much more peaceful, much more settled. Eastern Europe, on the other hand, has all these problems because they had been going through the same kind of crisis as Manipur have. People with different ethnicity, not being able to live together with each other. We should learn from the example of how the East European countries had this problem where they were not able to accommodate each other. And this is where we should learn from the example in Manipur. Now, what should happen? As per the author, the government at the center and at the state, because both of them are being run by the same party, they should actually take efforts to make sure that the two communities should come together. There has to be an open, transparent conversation about who deserves what kind of rights. Also, both the parties or both the sides should realize the problems that the states are facing, be it the drug-related problems, be it the other development-related issues. There are many laws in Manipur that term some people as foreigners, encroachers, illegal migrants. This should not be done. There are some laws that are discriminatory against the hill community. For example, the people living in the hilly areas, that is the Kukis, they can own land in the hill area also, and they can own land in the plains also. On the other hand, the Metis who are living in the plains can only own land in the plains. They cannot own land in the hilly areas. So there is a lot of discrimination as well. This is where we see that the government of Manipur and the government of India must take steps to bring the two communities together. The good part is, although a few days back there was a shoot at sight order issued, the good part is that kind of slight normalcy is starting to return. The curfew yesterday also, if you know, was lifted for a few hours only, allowing people to come out. Now, there are some other aspects of this story which are more important from the prelims point of view and from the mains point of view. The one very interesting part that was in the newspapers was the government of India used its powers under Article 355 to start controlling Manipur. Now, this is extremely interesting. Usually, you will see that when the central government wants to have or take over control of the state government, they use Article 355 and then Article 356 to impose president's rule. On the other hand, since the state government is also run by the same political party as at the center government level, 356 was not imposed, means the president rule was not imposed. It was only Article 355 that was used. Now, what exactly is Article 355? In simple terms, Article 355 says it is a union government's responsibility, because they have to protect every state of India against any attack, internal or external. Under Article 355, the center government can take over control of the state government administration under certain circumstances. What are those circumstances? First, when the state does not comply with directions given by the center government. Second, when the security of India is threatened. Third, when the state requests assistance from the union to maintain law and order. Or fourth, when the state fails to provide protection to minorities in cases of communal violence. In all these cases, Article 355 can be used, under which the center can take over control of the administration of the state. This is why it becomes extremely interesting. Remember, usually 355 and 356 articles are both used together, because after this is imposed, under Article 356, president rule is imposed. But in this case, that has not happened. In this case, because the state government and the central government are being ruled by the same political party, there is no logic for the central government to dismiss their own state government. So rather than that, they will just use Article 355 to ensure that they can take over the state administration. There is one more thing that I wanted all of you to know and revise. That is, since the entire demand here is about certain community wanting to become a part of scheduled tribe list and the other community saying that no, you cannot, you also should know what exactly is the process for inclusion in the scheduled tribe list. If you don't know this, that can be problematic. For example, the beginning of this process has to be at the state government. Now, in Manipur, this is the only thing that has happened. In Manipur, the interesting part is the protest is not because the Meiteis have been given any reservation so far. All the protests is that the state government has been told by the High Court to approach the center government. That is the only thing. So the first step is the state government will start the recommendation. They will send recommendation at the center level. Then at the center level, the Tribal Affairs Ministry will review this, and they will send this to the Registrar General of India that works under the Home Ministry. After their approval, the next step goes to National Commission for Scheduled Tribes, and then the final decision has to be taken by the Union Cabinet only. Once the Cabinet has decided this, they will introduce a bill in the Parliament to amend the Constitution Order 1950, and this is how, after the bill being passed, this is how you will see that a new scheduled tribe is included. In simple terms, in order for someone or for a community to become a part of scheduled tribes, the state does not have the final power. The state can only start the process and then leave it to the central government to decide. And this is what is happening in Manipur as well. This is a map of Manipur. Please remember, as you can see here, it kind of an L-shaped border with Myanmar. From Myanmar, we do have a lot of illegal immigration coming in to Manipur. The other point of the story is that since hilly areas and the tribes in the hilly areas, they have family connection with tribes living in Myanmar at this border. This is why you will see there's a lot of illegal immigration coming in. and many of them also indulge in opium cultivation, illegal drug cultivation also. This was our first article. Let's go to the second article. Before that, I would have liked to take some questions, but looking at the chat section, I think there are lesser questions and more of discussion and debate amongst yourself, which I would like to ignore, and I would suggest you also do that, but let me quickly take up a few questions. There is a question, what if government makes fundamental duties compulsory? Let's stick to what the topic is. What if the government makes fundamental duties compulsory? That's a whole different matter altogether. Plus, they are not going to make it compulsory, because that will make India a China-like country, a dictatorship. Making everything compulsory on the people, you would not like to live in that country. What if tomorrow government makes a law, waking up at 6 a.m. is compulsory? Drinking 5 cups of tea is compulsory. So you cannot make everything compulsory, as simple as that. Government should communicate every stakeholder to draw fairly implications and maintain law and order. We should come up with new drug regulations. Currently, we have pre-colonial law. No, Kishan, it's not that we have pre-colonial laws. The laws exist. Most of them are of post-independence. Some of them are pre-colonial. We do have many pre-colonial laws, meaning that we do have a lot of laws which were made by the British, and they exist even today. However, the idea is that the laws should keep on changing depending upon whatever the demand of the region is. This is the idea. Kindly don't copy paste one comment time and time again. It would not leave us any option but to block you, which I would not like to do. So let's not, please don't copy paste the same comment time and time again. You are just taking away other person's place. Okay. Then let me see if I have some other question. Can we mention Article 340 when we write answer related to this topic? I don't think Article 340 is related to it. I don't think Article 340 is related to it. See, it also depends on what kind of a question is. You can't just make up your mind that whatever question comes in, I will insert Article 340 because I have read it. Please don't do that. Only write or give an example of a question which is relevant here. So without finding the relevance, please do not give any those kind of examples, and don't think that I should give examples right now. Let the question come, decide on the question. Riya has a good question. What is the difference between Article 355 and President's Rule? So Priya, in President's Rule, the state government then has to be dismissed. When the President Rule is imposed, state government will not work then. State government is gone. In Article 355, the state government continues to exist, just that their powers are gone. Most of the powers are then given to the central government, but the state government still exists. In Article 356, President Rule, the state government is gone. That is a simple idea. Kona, there is no time period for Article 355 imposition. There is no time limit given. It's a pretty good question. In Article 356, you have a time limit. As you know, 1 year, usually 3 years at maximum, but 355 has no no time limit as such. Sharik, if you were late, this is a class on YouTube. You can always watch it after the class ends. You can rewind it. So I don't think I should repeat it again. If you were late, don't worry. That's the advantage of YouTube. Just rewind it and watch it again. Then I'll take one last question before we go ahead. Suresh has a pretty good question. What is the difference between signing a convention and ratifying it? Okay. So what happens is, let's assume countries around the world have come together and they have decided that let's go ahead and sign an agreement under which all of the countries agree that we will stop the use of plastic. Okay? Again, let's assume the countries around the world have come together, decided to sign an agreement under which every country says that we will stop the use of plastic. If Indian Prime Minister or Indian Minister signs it, that means India has signed the agreement. But that is not how it will be implemented. For its implementation, the next step is Indian Parliament has to pass it. That is the second step. This second step is called ratification. So first step is passing it, first step is signing it, where we just sign it. Second step is ratification, when the Parliament also has to pass it. That is called ratification. Only then these kind of conventions will be implemented. Without the Parliament ratification, just Prime Minister signing it will not make any impact. Okay, let's go ahead to the second article. Unfortunately, unlike other days, I'm getting more spam in the chat than good comments. So See, it's upon you. If you want me to take more questions, you'll have to keep the chat cleaner. If you don't keep the chat cleaner, if there are a lot of spam comments, I automatically will not even get to read the question. The question will be hidden and I will not be able to take questions. So the decision lies upon you. If you want me to take more questions, keep the chat section clean. If you don't, then it's entirely up to you. Let's move on to the second topic then. The second topic that we have here is from Taiwan. The article here is written by Minister of Health and Welfare from Taiwan. Please do remember here, the issue of Taiwan, as you know in the historic sense, Taiwan as per China is their part. I'll tell you one more thing. There is something called Republic of China. Please understand this very carefully. There is something called Republic of China, and then there's something called People's Republic of China. These two are very different things. Please remember, when you say People's Republic of China, you mean to say China, that is the country China. When you just say Republic of China, that is the official name of Taiwan. So whenever you see Republic of China written, you mean Taiwan. Whenever you see the People's Republic of China written, that is a PRC, that is what you mean China. So this is, if this is China, this small island nearby China on the south, this is Taiwan. China believes that Taiwan is also their part. They will acquire it someday. There's a long history to it. Anyway, let's come back. So what has happened? Why exactly is it in the news? Once again, Taiwan has not been invited to the World Health Assembly meeting. So WHO, that is a World Health Organization, has this meeting called the World Health Assembly, where all the members of the WHO are invited to take part. Taiwan has not been invited. Now the article here written by Taiwan minister says that Taiwan has had great achievements in the field of health. If you look at how Taiwan was able to control the spread of COVID, they were one of the best countries in the entire world when it comes to trying to curtail COVID, when it comes to ensuring that COVID doesn't spread far and wide. They say that their healthcare system is the best in the world. They are ready to share their technology and their research with other countries as well. Even then, Taiwan has not been considered as a part of WHO. Even then, Taiwan has not been considered as a country that should have been invited in the World Health Assembly. This is the big problem. Taiwan says that they are in complete support of the 300 billion targets. They are willing to share their technology with the entire world. Even then, they are not being invited to these kind of events. That is a shame, because it's not just about Taiwan. The entire world can learn from the expertise of Taiwan. I'll give you a very simple example so that you can understand how Taiwan is. For example, on an average, and again these are average figures, lump sum figures, these are not exact figures. So on an average, let's say lump sum, if India's per capita income is close to $2,100, that is India's per capita income, just lump sum figure. China's per capita income is about more than 5 times India, close to let's say $11,000. So that is about 5 times as that of India. However, if you look at Taiwan, do you know Taiwan's per capita income is over $50,000. So they are even more than China when it comes to which country is rich, which country is not rich. So if China on a per capita basis is more than 5 times rich as compared to India, Taiwan is even 5 times richer than China. So it's a very rich country, a developed country, one of the best democracies in the world. But even then, just because of the Chinese pressure, they have just not been able to get invited to these international platforms. Because China puts a lot of pressure that we don't want Taiwan to be considered as a country. China thinks that Taiwan is not a country, they are their part only. Taiwan says that if you look at the world rankings, even amongst the richest countries, Taiwan ranks the 6th lowest in COVID mortality. So their COVID mortality, number of people who died of COVID, were very, very low. Taiwan deserves to get a place in this World Assembly. They were one of those countries that have the best coverage of COVID-19 vaccination dose as well. They are ready to give vaccination and their technology to other parts of the world as well. Since 1995, the Taiwan government has been giving universal health care. So everyone in Taiwan just because they are a citizen of Taiwan. Everyone in Taiwan is covered under healthcare scheme. No one has to pay any extra money for insurance. This is one of the biggest achievements of Taiwan. They have been able to reduce cancer. They have been able to fulfill a lot of WHO goals. And even after all of that, Taiwan has not been invited to this. Taiwan's minister, who has written this article, is urging the countries around the world, including India, to put pressure on the WHO and on China to make sure Taiwan is invited to World Health Assembly. They have not been invited since 2017. Since 2017, Taiwan has not been a part of these World Health Assembly meetings. This is what Taiwan minister is ruining about. Now, a couple of important facts about what exactly is the topic about. As we saw, Taiwan's minister is saying that Taiwan is in support of WHO's triple billion target. Now, what exactly do we mean by the triple billion target? Number one, it means 1 billion more people should be benefited from universal health coverage. That is the first target that WHO has given to the countries. Second, 1 billion more people to be protected from health emergencies. And third, 1 billion more people to be covered for better health and well-being. These are the three targets WHO has set up. This is called WHO's triple billion target. Also, what exactly is the World Health Assembly? World Health Assembly, as I said, is a meeting of all the members of WHO. WHO has 194 members. The World Health Assembly basically acts like a parliament for the WHO, where the countries come together, they decide on matters, they decide on what should be the world health policy. For example, if there is a certain disease that is spreading across the world, then how to curtail those diseases, what kind of ideas to be shared, if there is a country which has been able to master the art of certain vaccines, etc. This is held every year in Geneva, Switzerland. It is usually held every year in May. What do? They determine the policies of WHO, they appoint the Director General of WHO, supervise the financial policies, and also approve different budgets of WHO. They are the ones who have been given the responsibility from protecting the world from these kind of issues such as the pandemic that we were facing. As we see, Taiwan not being invited to WHO meeting mainly under the Chinese pressure. Now, the Chinese pressure works in a lot of ways. I'll give you a simple example. Okay, now listen to this very carefully. It's a very interesting example. Do you know when COVID-19 crisis began, WHO for a long time did not even accept that this is a dangerous virus. In the beginning, when COVID-19 news started to come out, WHO first said that this virus cannot spread from humans to humans. Then WHO said, okay, we are sorry, it can spread humans to humans, but China is not responsible. And they kept on saying, no, China is not responsible, China has not done anything. The reason was that the head of WHO at that time was Dr. Tedros. Now, this Dr. Tedros, who was the Director General of WHO at that time when COVID-19 crisis was going on, he is from Ethiopia. Ethiopia is a country that has huge investments from China. If Chinese money goes out of Ethiopia, the Ethiopian government will start to struggle in their budget. So because of Chinese government's intervention in Ethiopia, because of Chinese money being present in Ethiopia in such large numbers, Dr. Tedros, the head of WHO, who is from Ethiopia, he was under a lot of pressure from his own government not to blame China. That is why WHO for a long time did not blame China. It was only after it became too much, people started to die, that WHO said, okay, China is responsible. Even then, a few months back, WHO team went to China to investigate the matter, to investigate how COVID-19 started. When they went to China to investigate this entire matter, they could not find anything. Many people said WHO just did not want to find anything because it was China. The second part of the story is most of these international organizations, be it the UN, WHO, they don't have any fixed source of income. All of them run on donations given by different countries. So WHO, in short, is run on donations given by countries including China. So they know that if they start speaking up against China, they will not get the help that China usually gives it to them. So there are a lot of politics at play, which is why WHO, despite knowing that the right thing would be to invite Taiwan, despite that, they will not do that. In fact, when the COVID-19 crisis started, Taiwan had first told WHO that there is a bad virus that is beginning to affect when the entire world did not know about COVID. Taiwan was the first country to warn WHO, but sorry, not a country, sorry Xi Jinping, Taiwan is not a country. But yes, when Taiwan was the first kind of a state to invite or to warn WHO about COVID-19, WHO rejected and WHO ignored all the warning signs. This is the pressure that China has over all these international organizations. That was our second article. Yes, it is unfair on Taiwan, but international politics is not fair. Kishan is saying Taiwan admitted PRC sovereignty or dominion state. According to them, it is Taiwan, according to China, is not independent. According to China, Taiwan is their part only, and they will make Taiwan a part of their own country very soon. So I'm saying, so it can be controlled at the beginning only. I don't know if COVID could have been controlled in the beginning, but yes, at least if countries around the world would have been given a warning sign 3 or 4 months earlier, then obviously they would have been prepared earlier. Vyashk is saying why Taiwan is not a country. Taiwan is not a country because China has so much pressure on international organizations. They don't want anyone to consider or recognize Taiwan as a country. So Xi Jinping will be very angry. Why USA accepted Taiwan as a part of China? No. USA has not accepted Taiwan as a part of China clearly. According to them, they follow one China policy. USA, in fact, has been committed to protecting Taiwan against Chinese aggression. So I won't say USA has agreed that Taiwan is a part of China. In fact, they are committed to ensuring kind of sovereignty, half sovereignty of Taiwan. Then, Taiwan has its own government. Yes, Rahul, Taiwan has its own government. In fact, recently, and every year there is a international report that comes out, international report about what are the world's best democracies. Where is it that the best democracies are running? Taiwan usually tops that list. So Taiwan is a proper democratic country, liberal country, very different from China. Anubhav, if you stop copy pasting your question, maybe I can take up your question, but if you just copy paste with that funny smiley, I will not take that question. So if you stay, maybe if you don't paste it for 3-4 minutes, then I can think of taking that question. Not right now. What is one China policy? Dharani, one China policy basically means that countries around the world accept that China, Taiwan, Hong Kong are not different countries, that we think that Taiwan specifically is not a separate country, that there is only one single country, that is China. So this is one China policy. India also accepts the one China policy. Farisha is asking the history of Taiwan. Farisha, history of Taiwan is very large. Very big. I don't think one class is enough to tell you the history of Taiwan, but I'll try and tell you it in very small, in 1 or 2 minutes only. History of Taiwan is, so basically what happened was, this used to be the entire country called China, where there was a rule of a party called Nationalist Party. Nationalist Party was fighting against one more party called the Communist Party. So what happened was, in 1940s, the Communist Party fought and removed the Nationalist government. Nationalist government was removed by force. Communist Party took over the entire country. This Nationalist Party, their leaders had to go out of China. They settled in a very small island here called Taiwan. So Nationalist Party that was ruling over China, they were forced out of the country by the Communist Party, so they came here to a small island called Taiwan. This Communist Party rules over China since 1949. They say that Taiwan also is a part of our country. Nationalist Party doesn't deserve to be there. This is the very small version of a long story of Taiwan. So you can watch a lot of other videos about the history of Taiwan, because again, one class, I would need at least 1 hour just to tell you about Taiwan. But this is the smallest version that you should know. Okay, let's go ahead then. The next article that we have here is about EU. So what is happening in EU? What is happening in European Union? In simple terms, as you know, EU wants to be the leader of the world, especially when it comes to climate change, those kind of technologies. So EU, that is European Union, has made a kind of a law. Their law is called Carbon Border Adjustment Mechanism. Now please listen to this very carefully, otherwise you'll miss it. So what is CBAM? In simple terms, CBAM means Europe says that our own factories, Europe says when our own factories manufacture some products, because our own factories are using clean energy, they are not polluting the environment, so their products are usually costlier. Europe says when our company makes a mobile phone, for example, that mobile phone will cost rupees 10,000 because they are using clean energy, which is expensive. On the other hand, when the same mobile is made in China, the company is able to make it in 6,000 rupees. Why? Because that company is using dirty electricity, they are polluting the environment, etc. So Europe says now what we will do is, if China sells this mobile phone to Europe, then Chinese mobile will be sold in Europe. Why? Because it is cheaper. But Europe is saying when a country like China or India, when they sell their products to India, they will impose taxes on them because they were produced by harming the environment. So they will put taxes on Chinese product on the basis that they used dirty electricity, that they polluted the environment. This is called CBAM. When a thing is imported to EU, taxes will be imposed if that product, while being manufactured, was harming the environment. This is called CBAM. This will start from this October. Now, what is the problem here? The problem here specifically is for India. India exports a lot of stuff to Europe. For example, we export a lot of iron ore and steel to Europe. The problem is, in manufacturing of steel, iron ore, there is a lot of pollution obviously in this industry. India is now fearing that if on our iron and steel there are taxes being imposed from 19.8 to 52%, as a result of this, our steel, iron will become very expensive and they will not be sold in Europe. This is our biggest problem. Our biggest export usually right now in the past few years is our machinery. Our engineering products, they are sold in large numbers in EU, and if tomorrow taxes are imposed in large numbers on these products, we will not be able to export a lot of those stuff. India is planning to go to WTO to raise a voice against this law. On the other hand, EU is saying that no, we are doing this to save our environment. EU is saying that this is in line with WTO as well. Now, why can EU do this? The simple point is EU can do this because they know they are rich, they are powerful, although they don't have a lot of population. But because EU, European Union is rich, they know that every country wants to sell their products to EU because they are rich. So they have the power to purchase. This is where it's not just India. Other developing countries will also be harmed. So the article here says that India should raise a voice at G20 against this law, not just because it is harming India, but it is harming other countries as well, which are trying to export stuff to EU. Ideally, if this has to be done, if EU really wants to clean the environment, they should not put taxes. They should rather transfer technology to countries like India, right? If EU really cares so much about the environment, transfer the technology to us, tell us how to manufacture something in a clean manner, but you will not do that. You will, on the other hand, you will put taxes on us. This is the problem here. The problem is not just that we don't want a cleaner environment. If we also want a clean environment, who are we? We are also living in the same environment. So it's not that we don't want that. The problem here is that you are being very, very discriminatory against developing countries. You are just making sure that only your friends like US, other European countries, only they sell you the products, because you are not ready to accept that you are the ones who harmed the environment 100 years ago because of your industrial revolution. And now you don't even want to go ahead and transfer technology to developing countries. This is where the problem starts. So countries such as India, all other developing countries know that yes, cleaning the environment is something that should be done. But cleaning the environment cannot come at the cost of cutting jobs. When our export drops down, the jobs will be cut. When our exports drop down, we will have a problem there. People will not be able to earn enough money. So cleaner environment cannot come at this cost. What is this cross-border adjustment mechanism? As I said, it's a law by EU. It starts from October. They will put taxes on carbon intensive goods. So those goods during which they're manufacturing which harmed the environment due to carbon emissions. On an average, there will be 20 to 35% tax. It will start from this October. It will go on till Jan 2026. Then all the products coming in from different countries will be under this tax. Now, again, developing countries, including India, think that this is against us, but that is, again, what EU doesn't accept. Also, with respect to India specifically, what will be the impact that India will have? Since India has a big trade with EU, India also wants to sign a free trade agreement with EU, so this CBAM can harm India. Right now, 27% of our total export in iron, steel, aluminium goes to EU, which is a huge number, over $8 billion. India also exports iron and aluminium to EU countries. Again, all these are those industries which usually harm the environment quite a lot. This is where India has to be very, very careful. I'll give you one more interesting example. See, we all know China is a factory of the world. They produce a lot of stuff. Do you know why it happens? When China produces a lot of stuff, it's not that USA, Europe cannot do that. USA and Europe can also produce all those things. But they know that because producing all these small little things will harm our environment, let us give it to China, let them pollute the environment, we will just buy it from China as a finished product. It is EU and USA that has deliberately made China the factory of the world because they want to conserve their environment. They don't want these kind of production or any kind of pollution to happen in their country. So on one hand, they are exporting their dirty work to China that no, you do it, we will not do it. We will just pay you money because we are rich and these people can do that. On the other hand, now they want the blame also to be given to the developing world. So this is, I'm sorry to say if EU is watching, but hypocrisy of the highest order. You cannot have a world that runs according to your rules. You have to be fair at the end of the day, especially because, and understand this, environment doesn't stop at the border. Environment doesn't stop at the border. For example, if environment is bad in our country, it will go across the world. It's not that if EU has clean air and other parts of the world have dirty air, so they will not be impacted. But if climate change is happening, they will also be impacted. They will also see floods. They will also see drought. They will also see other problems. So it's not that it's different in different countries. Maybe not today, but after 10, 15 years, our environment will reach EU as well. So it has to be a collective effort. That was my rant. Anyway, so that was our third topic. Before going to fourth topic, let me quickly take a few questions. Okay, there was a question that I ignored, which was repeated time and time again. I think that question was difference between NGO and NPO. I don't know what NPO is. NGO is non-government organizations that do kind of the work of the government, helping people usually, but they are not associated with the government. NPO, I don't know what NPO is. Maybe if you write the full form, I'll be able to explain that better. Then I have a question. Is this tax good as it will be able to achieve environment protection? As I explained, see, in the long run, everyone wants to protect the environment. For example, if you ask someone, do you want clean air? Who will say, no, I don't want clean air? Everyone will say, I want clean air, as simple as that. So it's not that people will not say that I want clean air. People will want clean air at the end of the day. But how do you achieve that? That is the problem. NPO, non-profit. Okay. See, NPO, NGO, very similar to each other. For example, there are NGOs that can make profit also. It's not that NGOs have to be non-for-profit. NGOs can make profit also. Just that they are working for the interest of the people, interest of society, but they can make profit as well. Non-profit organizations are not always NGOs. For example, schools and colleges in India are supposed to be, as per law, they cannot make profit. Do you know, if you want to become rich, school, college, opening up these kind of institutes cannot make you rich. So these organizations are not for profit. So not for profit is different, slightly different. Or not all NGOs are NPOs. most of NGOs are NPOs. Then Vizika is saying, can we expect a detailed specific prelims based question from this? Vizika, to be true, you can expect a prelims based question from any topic. It depends on UPSC. There is no topic that I would say is only catered to mains. If UPSC really wants, they can make a question from prelims from each and every topic that we are discussing. So I would not say that specifically reserve it for the mains. It can be asked in it can be asked in prelims as well. They can ask details about this. They can ask about India-EU trade as well. So it's nothing that they can't ask. Okay, a couple of more very quickly. What can India do to reduce the impact of CBAM or Indian manufacturing sector? Number one, try and manufacture it in a cleaner way, but that cannot happen overnight. Second, search for new buyers who can buy these products if EU is not buying it. Thirdly, use organizations such as the G20 to raise this voice. Talk to other developing countries as well and see if they are able to help us. As I said earlier, and I'm repeating again, if you keep on pasting your comment time and time again, this is a short way of me not taking your question or comment. So just keep on pasting it, I will not read it. Ashwini, just Google what is EU. EU is mainly a group of European countries. Most European countries are a part of EU. Okay, I'll take one more question before we go ahead. Dharani Singh, does USA also promote import, export, produce on clean energy? They do, but they don't have a law like this that we will put tax on you if you don't produce it in a clean manner. They don't have such kind of a law. Kishan is saying, is it in violative of open market economy? No, Kishan, it's not violative of open market economy. For example, India-Pakistan trade is kind of zero now. If we say we will not import stuff from Pakistan because they are harming our economy, is it against open market economy? No. Open market economy doesn't mean that you will not look after your own national interest. If my national interest is that I want a cleaner environment, then I can say that I will not have some countries importing to my country. So it's not all the same. Okay, let's go ahead then. The next article that we have here is about migrant vote. As I told you earlier, Karnataka today is voting. There are state assembly elections going on in Karnataka. A new government will be elected. However, the problem here is that it again brings to light the problem of migrant laborers. Migrant laborers are those who move from state to state for job or maybe for education, but mainly for jobs. The problem here is, let's say if you are from Uttar Pradesh or Madhya Pradesh or Chhattisgarh, Rajasthan, and let's say you have moved to Karnataka for work, most probably your voter ID will be of that state where you came from. But in the elections, you can't expect the worker to take an off specially to go back to their state and vote. You tell me, if you studied in college out of your city, did you go back to your city especially on the day of voting? Most probably no. Unless you belong to a very influential or a political family where every vote will be taken very seriously. But you usually don't do that, right? There is only one holiday. You don't have to spend all that money just to go back and because I have to vote. So usually that doesn't really happen. Now, this is where migrant workers have an issue. Usually you will see that voting percentage in the national elections voting percentage can change from state to state, but on an average the voting percentage remains close to 65%, usually. So in other words, 1 out of every 3 people in India doesn't vote. If there are 3 people, out of those 3, 1 at least will not vote. That the big part of that is maybe they are not even living in the city. They are somewhere else. They are migrant laborers. Now the problem here is, when you move from one state to the other state, you don't really want the other election ID to be made. Many people want their ID proof to be of their original city, original state, and this is where the problem starts. Now the solution to this is, the Election Commission of India has tried to introduce a new system called remote voting machines. Remote voting machine would be, I'll just give you an example. Let's say today there are elections going on in Karnataka. So let's assume there is a person who has a voter ID of Bangalore, but he's living in Delhi right now. He's working in Delhi. So he doesn't want to come to Karnataka to vote. So in Delhi only, on today's day, there will be some places where he can go and vote himself. That is called remote voting machine. So rather than going to your state or to your city, to your constituency, wherever you are, you can vote. This is called remote voting machines. Now, the problem is, although the idea of remote voting machine was introduced, but it has not been implemented so far. A few months back, Election Commission of India wanted to give a demo of remote voting machine to political parties, but the meeting did not go well. Many political parties just did not even turn up. Again, remote voting machine is not a reality in India. Many people have this confusion. NRIs means Indian citizens who are living outside India. If let's say there's an Indian citizen living in USA, they have the right to vote, but they have to come back to India to vote. There is no remote voting for NRIs also. If you have to vote in India right now, either you are working in the armed forces, that's a different matter altogether. If you're working in the armed forces, then you have the option of postal vote, etc. But common people, they don't have the option of remote voting. Now, the reason being, as I said, on an average, the voting percentage remains close to 65%. Last election, Lok Sabha voting percentage was 67.4. So a lot of people do not participate in voting, and the major reason is that they are just not even in that constituency. Domestic migration is a big reason for this, and that is why we have to ensure that domestic laborers get the right to vote before the NRIs. When I say before the NRIs, the reason is in the past few years, there is a lot of demand that NRIs should get the right to vote without coming back to India. And the reason is BJP, for example, has a lot of support base that lives outside India. So many people in the BJP especially think that NRIs living outside India should also have the right to vote. But again, they don't have the right to remote voting. They have to come back to India only. As India becomes more and more advanced, and I ask this question every few months, I'll ask this question today also. Just if I ask you that in India, which is the one city where you would want to settle down, where you can have a good job and good standard of living? If you make this list, usually you will not be able to make a list of more than 10 cities. Across the country, just try and make a list of those cities where you think you can get a good job and good standard of living. Across the country, you will not get more than 10 cities on the list. Ask anyone. Delhi, Mumbai, Bangalore, Hyderabad, let's say Pune also, and then let's say Chennai, maybe Kolkata if you want, maybe Ahmedabad. That is the truth. The problem here is, if 140 crore people in a country, all of them want to settle in only 10 cities. Now, do you see the problem here? The problem here is, number one, those cities will not have enough infrastructure. That's fine. The other problem is, their voting ID will be of somewhere else, and they would be living somewhere else. So it's a very common issue that people don't live where their original homes are. This is where remote voting has to be problematic. Now, the other point of the story is, remote voting machines can be easy to hack as per many people. But Election Commission has promised that remote voting machines will not be connected to internet. So you don't have to worry about that. They have said that remote voting machines will not be connected to internet. So you will not have to worry about that as well. Voting machines are only made by a few companies in India. Electronics Corporation of India is one of them. Only they will be making the remote voting machines. There will be no private player involved anyway. By the way, those who are telling me in the chat, Indore, Surat, Faridabad, whatever, you all know how many private sector jobs are in those areas. So all these cities are great, but ask your heart, do you think these cities that you're talking about really have those kind of jobs, those kind of private sector jobs that you actually want? Not really, right? So the reality is, again, everyone loves their city. I love my hometown. I would want to remain in my hometown, but I know my hometown doesn't have those kind of jobs. As simple as that. So you have to accept the reality. I remember, for example, I'll take an example of Lucknow. Okay, there are some people from Lucknow, some people would know about Lucknow, or you can take another example of, let's say, Bhubaneswar. Lucknow, Bhubaneswar, both great cities, great places to live. I've lived in both these cities for some time. Yes, you have few private sector jobs. For example, Lucknow has a TCS office, it has an HCL office. Bhubaneswar again has a TCS Infi office. But again, if you don't work in those companies, apart from that, you don't have many other options in private sector. You know that. And then you go to the other cities, you have many other option. So this is where the difference starts. Anyway, so remote voting machines, not really a reality right now, but again, this is an idea that has been suggested. Now I have 2 more small topics to go from the prelims point of view. Before that, let me quickly take up a few questions. How do people get engaged in working for polling booths, that is teachers, other government employees, cast their vote? So those people who engage or who have election duty, they first cast their own vote and then they go to duty. It's a very tough job. I know some government school teachers who have been asked to go to that duty. They have to approach at 4:30 a.m. They have a very, very long day. Kishan, there are 2 companies that make the EVMs, not just one. I gave you the name of one. You can search about the other one. There are 2 companies that make EVMs, not just one. In fact, I can give you guys this homework. Try and search which are the companies. Give you 2 homeworks, okay? One homework is try and search which are the companies which are allowed to make EVMs in India. There are only 2 companies. Write them in the comment section after the video ends. I'll ask you one more question. Only one company in India is allowed to make that voting ink that you have. When you vote, you get that voting ink, right? That voting ink can only be made by one company in India and no other company. It is not allowed. Search for that later on, not right now. Tell me in the comment section after the video ends. You will find it very interesting. It has a very interesting history of why that company was chosen. Anyway, let me again take up a few questions. Why China, being so powerful, why is it not able to remove democratic government of Taiwan? Is it, Abhishek, it's not that easy that you can just remove Taiwan. Taiwan is supported by a lot of other nations, including USA specifically. So it's not to say that China is so powerful it can remove anyone. I hope it doesn't do that because one would lead to another, but right now at least USA and other countries do support Taiwan. Taiwan also has a lot of their own weapons, by the way. Devesh is saying, have you voted? Devesh, unfortunately, I do not have voter ID of Bangalore, so I have not voted because I'm in Bangalore. So remote voting would have helped me also, but so I am also one of those people who are not able to vote because of remote voting not being here. Then, why such an importance to NRIs, although they don't contribute much to the country? No. See, this is a misconception that NRIs don't contribute to the country. NRIs contribute a lot. They do pay a lot of taxes. They contribute through remittances, etc. And again, importance of NRIs depends on which party is in power. BJP is in power. They usually do have a lot of support base amongst the NRIs, so they would want the NRIs to vote, as simple as that. It's just about politics, nothing more, nothing less. Then Benazir is saying, why US doesn't use EVM? Ask US, I don't know. Maybe US will be able to answer you better. Mr. CR, I have a voter ID card, but that voter ID card is not of the place where I am living. So don't worry, I have a voter ID card. Okay, I'll take 1 or 2 more questions. Devesh asking, does India have embassy in Taiwan? No, we don't have embassy in Taiwan. No. Then why India didn't buy new technology, instead weapons? Because it cost money. New weapons are some of the most expensive things that you can buy. Okay, let's go ahead then. So a couple of more topics, small topics, especially from the prelims point of view. Israel's foreign minister was in India and he signed a deal. The deal was Arab trains, that is the trains of the Arab countries, will be able to supply stuff from India to Israel. The reason being, if you look at, and I'll show you the map also, if you look at the connectivity between India and Israel, there's no direct connection as such. So from India to send stuff to Israel, it's not that easy. You have to send it by air, by water. There is no direct connectivity. So what has happened is now, because Israel in the past few years has been making their relationship better with the Arab countries have now agreed that, okay, we will use our trains to connect India with Israel. As you know, a few years back in UAE and Israel signed something called the Abraham Peace Accord. Abraham Peace Accord was about UAE making their relations with Israel normal. Ever since Israel has been formed, most of the Arab countries have been against Israel because they have been supporting the issue of Palestine. But now, many Arab countries, excluding Iran, if you basically remove Iran, except Iran, many of the Arab countries have now normalized their relationship with Israel. India's Israel trade right now is about $9 billion. We are also trying to sign a free trade agreement with Israel, and we are hoping that we will take this trade to about $20 billion. Now, this is the map of Middle East. This is where Israel is. Just look at this. I'll maybe change the pen color. See, this is Israel. As you can see here. So if you see India's connectivity with Israel, it's not that easy. So if India has to deliver some stuff to Israel, it has to either go from here, or it has to go through the Mediterranean, so it has to take a very long D route. This is where it becomes problematic. So now Arab countries are saying that we will have a train route to Israel, so it will become better for both us and for Israel as well. This is the entire issue here. Now the Abraham Accords that were signed because they were mediated by the US. Arab Accord was a beginning of US to normalize Israel's relationship with the other countries in the region. Like UAE and Israel signed this accord, after which Bahrain also came and they also signed this. This was an attempt by the US to normalize the relationship of Israel with the other countries in the region so that they don't have so much to worry about. They are called the Abraham Accords because Abraham is considered as a prophet in both Judaism and Islam. Right now, Iran or Israel and India do not have a free trade agreement. We are trying to. Also, please remember, Israel has been one country that has been helping us a lot even before India established great relationship with Israel. I'll give you an example. In Kargil war, when India was fighting Kargil war against Pakistan, very few countries came for India's help. Do you know why? Because in 1998, India had conducted the Pokhran test. So because of which a lot of countries, including USA, had put sanctions on India. So in 1999, when Kargil war was fought, India asked for help from USA, mainly because we wanted better GPS. We wanted better location of Pakistan planes using GPS, but USA denied that. USA said, no, we will not give you this technology because they had put sanctions on us after Pokhran test. Israel was one of the few countries that held India in Kargil war. They supplied us ammunitions, they supplied us mortars for our tanks, etc., despite India facing sanctions from the other countries. So again, there are many examples that you can find of Israel trying to help us. Even in 1962 war, when India-China war was going on, India did not have official relationship with Israel. Please remember, India's official relationship with Israel only started in 1992. But even in 1962 war, they did help us. They offered to help us with China war as well. So Israel usually has had great relationship with India from a very, very long time. The last article that we have here is about CPEC. I'm sure all of you know about CPEC, China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, that connects China's Xinjiang province to Pakistan, basically to Pakistan's Gwadar port. The problem that India has with CPEC is it goes through Pakistan-occupied Kashmir, which is our territory, but it is being built through Pakistan-occupied Kashmir. The news is that now it will be extended till Afghanistan as well. This is a big construction project. It has a lot of infrastructure. $60 billion are being spent. I'll just give you a photo so that you can understand. So as you can see, this is a project from China. It will connect till Gwadar port here in Pakistan. Why is China doing this? Just understand this. If China has to import oil from Middle Eastern countries, oil has to go all the way from south of India to the state of Malacca and then to China. But with this, what can happen is these countries can just sell their oil here to Gwadar, and then from Gwadar it can be taken to China. Similarly, from China, whatever exports they have to do to Middle Eastern countries, that can happen from here. India doesn't like it. Why? Because again, it is going through Pakistan-occupied Kashmir. This is what the CPEC is. This is just to show what are the different projects in the CPEC. It is not just a highway. There are multiple projects being built here. Coal mining project. There is a Gwadar International Airport that will be built. There are multiple other projects, hydropower project, all of that with Chinese money, and Pakistan wants this money to be theirs. I'll tell you one more very interesting thing. If you see here, see this. This is the province of Baluchistan. This is the Baluchistan province of Pakistan. Now, Baluchistan is the largest province of Pakistan, and also that province where Pakistan army, police doesn't have a lot of control. This is a province where many attacks have also happened against Chinese workers here. They have been demanding that they want independence from Pakistan. Because of this, because of all this problem in Baluchistan, see something very interesting here. The original idea of CPEC was that this dotted line was the original plan. But original plan meant that a lot of part will be constructed in Baluchistan, which China did not want because there was security concern. That is why the route was changed. That is why the route was changed. Now, much lesser part of CPEC will now go through Baluchistan. This is why China-Pakistan economic corridor is important. Now this will be extended to Afghanistan as well, and they like it. Why is China doing this? China has found a lot of mineral reserves in Afghanistan. Lithium, for example, is found in Afghanistan in large numbers, and China is trying to exploit that as well. Which brings us to the end of today's session. There are a couple of practice questions right in front of you. I hope that you will be able to answer these questions. Don't forget the homework that I gave you. Search about the name of those companies that make EVM and the election ink that we have. Do tell me in the comment section after the video ends. Please write answers to these as well. Don't forget to attend this evening's session for International Relations number 3, that is the ongoing target prelims series. Thank you so much for joining in. I'll see you tomorrow sharp at 10 a.m. Thank you so much. Bye bye. Have a good day. Jai Hind.